Why are some leaders so easy to follow and some seem just so difficult? They don't have a clear path, they don't have a clear vision, and they just lead in a wrong way, it seems.
Some are flowing and others feels like it's forced.
Absolutely. Guys, today we are talking about the 5 laws of unbreakable leadership, which is one of me and Andrew's favorite topics of all time.
Yes.
This is for the entrepreneurs. This is for those who are running a business, who are looking to run a business. These are just high-level people who want to become the best leaders they can be because they know you're not running this life all by yourself.
By the end of today's show, you're going to have some takeaways of how you can become a better leader. Every one of us are leaders in some way, whether it's our home, our family. Many of you, probably all of you, are business owners, leaders in your business, leaders of a team, leaders of friend groups, leaders of communities. And being a leader is a key to utilizing your influence properly. To whom much is given, much is required. So by the end of today, you're going to see a lot of steps you can take to be an even more awesome leader. These are the things I wish I would have known when I started, because my leadership sucked when I started running a business and started trying to build a team, and I did it the wrong way countless times. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. So first, we asked, what is your win? For those of you who are just coming in, type in the chat, what is your win? And I want to read some of you guys. Mimi just got out of her sling. She was in an injury and her bone had moved and her doc is pleased. Shout out to Mimi.
Way to go, Mimi.
Jim's win is that it's his twin's birthday. Get to spend time with family.
Nice.
That's what I'm talking about. Kay got a couple new showings lined up for tomorrow. Let's go, Kay. Elizabeth got her morning routine in, which included some yoga. This is good. Bill's here, praying for you. Les is here with Ice, Ernie, Kayla. That's what I'm talking about.
We got the whole crew.
We got the whole crew. Awesome. What is your win, Andrew?
My win is, oh my goodness, I got several. But one big one, I just have to share it. It's a real estate win.
Okay.
And then I'll share a second win.
Yeah.
Cool?
Yep.
First win, just found out that in all the ups and downs of doing a project, that a development that we've been working on for a year plus now, just found out that we can build 20% more properties on this plot of land than we originally believed.
Absolutely.
So that's the real
That is a huge win. Rock and roll. What's your second one?
My second win is I get to be here hanging out with you guys, with my brother, doing this show, because this is going to be the linchpin, guys, that drives some incredible growth as we're practicing to be better leaders every day too. So we get to do it behind the scenes right in front of you and practice our leadership here every single day, sharing our wins and leading in incredible value for you all. So thank you for being here. I do want to see how you guys are feeling. So give us a 1 out of 10 in the chat. How is your energy today? 1 out of 10 in the chat.
1 out of 10. Okay, my win is that the next 90 days of these shows are almost prepped out. I've been spending a lot of time on the media side here, building this out, making sure we get 1% better. And that's what we're going to do every day. Our students are happy, our people are happy, and our family is happy. So we're winning on our side, and we're hoping that you're winning on your side too. But if you keep showing up, you're going to keep winning.
Yeah, showing up is half the battle. And I think it's so powerful. What are we, a month and a half in? Pushing 2 months into our 365.
Every single weekday.
And every day, Monday through Friday, noon PST, 3 p.m. Eastern, we're here hanging out with you. And we're taking you on a journey. You're going to start to see the flow here in coming days and weeks and how this journey is working. And what happens is we're going to look back. And a year's going to have passed. And for those of you who've been hanging out here every day, you're going to have seen the show grow. You're going to have seen our growth. But here's what the coolest part is. You're going to look in the mirror and you're going to see a different person. You're going to see your growth. You're going to be a better leader. You're going to be more productive in sales, a better business owner. All these things that add up over time just by putting in the reps. In the gym, when Leo got me to start working out, he taught me something. It was put in the reps. I didn't know what that meant until you got me in the gym, bro. And then I found out that meant Just do the thing over and over and over again.
So we're going over the 5 laws of unbreakable leadership. Guys, this will expand in your life. Those of you who are entrepreneurs, whether you're a solopreneur or you're someone who has maybe a team of 5, a team of 10, a smaller team, this is going to allow you to create a better culture. This is going to allow you to decide things quicker. This is going to allow you to create extreme accountability between you, your partners, your people around you. This goes into relationships, how to lead the relationships, how to lead your family. A lot of our students are parents. A lot of our students are family, men and women, and we've got to understand how they lead their families.
Right.
And of course, we're very blessed and honored to be able to be the ones that people go to continue to help their families or continue to help them help their families. So we have 5 laws here, and I just want to give you a quick preview of them. All right. So law number 1 is the law of decisiveness. We're going to go into each one. Law number 2 is total ownership. Andrew.
Law number 3, law of influence. Number 4 is the emotional control. And last but not least, what's the last one?
The law of development, how to create more leaders around you. So everybody type in the chat, which one are you the most excited for? 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Because we're going to go into every single one of them, but I'm really excited for 5 because it's going to give you guys a pathway to create the leaders around you. I know a couple of you guys on here are building a team, and the law of development, number 5, is really going to help you expand that team, get everyone on the same page, make sure that you are all rowing in the same direction, because what happens in a team is you got the rower, one person's going forward, and then maybe you got 4 or 5 other people rowing the same direction. But then you got those 1 or 2 people who are rowing just in the absolute opposite direction, or they're not rowing at all.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if you know your boat is going towards a position, a place that is going to help you and your family, and you got 2 people who aren't rowing, and it slows you guys down, you got to get them out of the boat. You got to get them out of the boat, or you got to get them on the same page and get everyone rowing in the same direction. So let's go to number 1, Andrew. You ready for this?
I am ready.
Okay, you started off.
The law of decisiveness. Indecision is a killer. This is something I struggled with for the first several years of my business. I would hesitate. I would come up to a big decision, and I would hesitate. And what I found was, while not every decision that we're going to make is always going to be the right one, when we come up to a decision, we pause, we hesitate, we linger, or as we called it growing up, we dilly-dally. We hang out. Being indecisive, it kills momentum. It kills growth. So I found out if I can gather data, gather information, and gather all the information I possibly can, which is step 1, gather information. And once I have all the information I can gather in a short amount of time, then immediately I'm going to make a decision. And I'm going to stand with that decision. That doesn't mean you can't change your mind later, but I'll give you an example. I'm driving down the road. I hear a radio ad that I can go to a seminar that will teach me to invest in real estate. And while it was a bigger investment than I had ever made in myself, I got on the phone and I determined all the information I could. I asked some questions. I said, this is for me. I'm going to figure out how to make it happen. And I made the move. And 3 weeks later, I am in my Audi, my A6 Audi, driving down the road, headed to downtown Atlanta, Georgia, to my first seminar. That was a life-changing decision. And that same thing has happened countless times over the years where I come up to a decision, and when I've hesitated, it's cost me dearly. And here's why it cost me dearly to hesitate, is because there is focus loss. What's some other ways that we get past indecision, Leo?
So a lot of us have this analysis paralysis where we feel like we need all the information, we need all of the right answers before we can make an educated decision. But what we've understood is, type in the chat, gather just enough.
This is good.
Gather just enough. When me and Andrew are making a decision, we know sometimes that we have maybe an hour, maybe a day, maybe a week, maybe 25 minutes to make a decision. Sometimes 25 seconds. Right before a live like this, I had to change the topic a day before because it was a topic that we'd already kind of touched on. I wanted to make sure to switch it up. So I changed this topic about 30 minutes before we went live here. So I've been prepping for the past 30 minutes. However, when we have that amount of time, we just ask ourselves some questions. I'm like, Andrew, what is the biggest problem? Where do we need to go? What's the outcome?
Yeah.
Okay, and what's holding us back? And that'll be just enough information for me to say, okay, I think this is the best way to go. So gather just enough information, but never wait for the perfect certainty, because that never really comes, right? Certainty is built. It's a skill. It's a skill that you create by having confidence in decisions.
Yeah.
Every time you make a decision, you get some data of like, hey, that was a good decision and it helped me in my business. And my intuition felt good about it. And I got just enough data. The more you do that, the better at decisions you become. So for all of you guys today, think about a decision that you've been putting off. And I want you to continue holding that in your brain, because we're going to help you make that decision by the end of this show.
I want to point out something that is a perfect example of making rapid decisions, because type it in the chat. What's my next best move? What's my next best move? My dad always said something growing up. He said anytime we lived in the country, so there was always deer and turkey and raccoons and all sorts of animals and critters crossing the road. And we would always kind of give Dad a hard time because it seemed like he would hit animals sometimes. And we was like, Dad, why do you hit animals? And he said, I've seen too many people see a little critter crossing the road and swerve to miss it and either get hurt badly or die. He said, so I will, of course, try to avoid the critter, but not at the cost of losing control of my vehicle. And so I learned that. And then one day I'm going for a walk down to the railroad tracks where we often go hunting. And there is a guy sitting in the road with his car mangled up. It's totaled. It's spread all across. The guy is hurt badly. He's just sitting in the road moaning. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what in the world has happened to you? And he musters out the words, I swerved to miss a deer and I hit the concrete wall. And I am going, oh my goodness, this is what Dad meant. Now I share that because in an instant, we have to make a decision. Am I going to lose control of the car, or am I going to keep on the path I know and hopefully I can avoid the critter too? And as we're doing this thing, so many times that's the way it is in business. We have a split moment to make a decision, to make a deal, to close the opportunity, to decide to take the trip or decide to go to the event or decide to shake somebody's hand and say, you know, how are you doing today? And we miss that moment, or we don't miss that moment because we take that action. So lean into the action. Decisiveness will create trust in the people you're around, because when they know that you are confident in where you're going, many more people will want to come along with you.
People follow those with conviction.
Yeah.
With the ability to make decisions quickly, make decisions with confidence. And there are people who make decisions, but they second guess themselves over and over. Should I have made that decision? I don't know. What do you think? Was it good?
Yeah.
I shouldn't have done that, huh? Those people I don't trust.
Right.
Because they'll make a decision, but then no matter what decision they made, it'll be the wrong decision. Because they continually get down on themselves for making that decision, second guess themselves multiple times. So be the person that has massive conviction towards the decisions you make and actually back them up. Don't second guess yourself. If you made a mistake, take a step back and say, okay, now what decision do I have to make to get out of that? No more yawning, Andrew. Here's some coffee.
Thank you.
Me and Andrew have had a long morning. So there was
Appreciate it.
There was a moment in time, I think it was 333 BCE. It's called the Gordian knot. Have you heard of this?
No.
Have you heard of Alexander the Great?
Yes.
One of the greatest leaders of all time.
I heard he was great.
He was great. He was a great guy. But there was a prophecy in ancient Greece where they said whoever can untie this knot can rule all of Asia. So hundreds and hundreds of people would come and they'd try to untie this crazy knot that you see up here on the top right. Here, let me show you guys. This crazy Medusa looking like knot. So people all over would come and they would try to untie it. But it was impossible. You know, it would take hours and hours and hours. They would get nowhere. But then Alexander the Great comes and he's untying it. He's getting a little frustrated for a moment. But then what he decides to do is he pulls out his sword and just cuts it right in half. And that
works.
It works. And what happened was the guy ruled a lot of Asia, and he essentially teaches us this lesson to just cut through the BS. And sometimes you just got to make a bold decision. You just got to move forward.
What a good example. Because sometimes as we sit in what I call the valley of indecision, it is a killer. And I've seen people so many times who see an opportunity sitting in their living room, sitting in their house, sitting in their job, and they're going, my gosh, I wish I could speak and help others. I wish I could be a personal trainer. I wish I could be a real estate investor. I wish I could. And they sit and wish things, but because of lack of tenacity to take the step, or because of being overcome by fear, they continue to sit there. So become a leader who makes decisions quickly. A decision made quickly, even if it's not the right one, will take you at least forward in some way. Generally speaking, it's better to make quick decisions and stick by them than it is to sit in the valley of indecision on everything that you come across.
Very good. All right, so that was number 1, the law of decisiveness. We're going to come back to that decision that you know you need to be making as we go to number 2. Number 2 is the law of total ownership, which is one of my favorites. The law of total ownership just means extreme accountability. If something fails, it is your fault. You own it, you fix it, you improve it, you do whatever you can to learn from the mistake, learn from the failure, and get past it. In my life, I was raised by someone who did not take a lot of accountability in their lives, and that's the language that I would hear on any given day. You know, it's your fault, or it's someone else's fault, or it was her fault. And what I had learned really early on is if I wanted to get in the place that he was, which wasn't a very successful avenue, then I should blame everyone else. And then I looked at very successful men that I had seen in my life and had seen the amount of accountability that they took all across their life. You know, things that weren't really their fault, they still said, it's still my responsibility. Yeah. And I learned to start owning everything in my life, right? If I wanted to become successful, nobody else is going to do that for me. I'm going to have to create that ownership in my life. I'm going to have to own it. I'm going to have to take the action. And while I can create the connections like I did, like, for example, with you, and you've helped me become very successful, it's still my responsibility to make that connection.
And I think this plays through in every aspect of life, because wherever you're leading, it's your responsibility. This was tough for me to hear. I'll tell you the toughest place it was for me to hear. Have you ever been around those people that at other places and other times you see them having things go wrong in their life, and it's always the government fault. It's always the president's fault. It's always their wife's fault. It's always their husband's fault. It's always the kid's fault. It's always
anybody else,
their boss's fault.
Right.
And you frankly don't like to be around that person because they just blame rather than fixing. And so what we blame, we never fix. It's easier to say, you know, gosh, I'll wait till the government fixes it. It's easier to sit there and wait. But the moment we took ownership, and the toughest place for me ever taking ownership was when I lost the $3 million plus. And I'm sitting there, had been taken massive advantage of, and I'm feeling a little sorry for myself. Can't believe that somebody would do this to me.
This wasn't too long ago.
This was a few short years ago.
That's right.
And I, of course, want to blame the individuals who caused that to happen, who purposely came with ill intent and done what they did. But then I look at it and say, wait a second. If I would have been on my A game, if I would have had deeper conversations with my attorneys, if I would have better prepared documents, if I would have had deeper questions and asked better questions, and I realize that there's only one person who could have stopped that from happening, because there's always going to be really bad people in the world.
That's right.
And that person that could have and should have stopped that from happening would have been the guy in the mirror. And that was tough for me to accept, because when people do us wrong, it's always going to happen. Something goes wrong, it's easy to blame, to point fingers, and to be angry and upset. But I ask myself, let's say it was all their fault. Let's say I had no control over it. If I sit here and blame, where does that actually get me? I still lost the money. It still really freaking sucked. And it put me in a place, except instead I choose to look at it and say, thank you, God. Everything happens for a reason. I'm smarter for it. I'm better for it. I'm glad I got to learn that lesson at 3 million and not 30 million. So now everything becomes a perspective. So the law of total ownership, no matter how difficult it will change your life.
And I know you talk about that story a lot, and sometimes it goes by quick, but that's $3 million, right?
It's a lot.
When
of
you
money.
first told me that, I had never even seen $30,000. So it scared me to get into business. And my thought was going, okay, is that going to happen to me? Who are these people? And the more we talked about it, you start to realize like, wow, if you had vetted the people better or had better intuition or like learned how to vet out partners earlier, that probably wouldn't have happened to you.
Yeah.
So it still becomes your fault. It still becomes your responsibility.
And that sucks to hear. And it's true.
Sucks to hear. Jocko Willink says, leaders must own everything in their world. There is no one else to blame. Jocko Willink has an incredible book called Extreme Ownership, and I recommend everyone to read it. It's really what taught me this mentality that, hey, Leo, it's up to you. Of course, you have Andrew, but Andrew also knows extreme ownership. That's also why we do so well in business, is because he takes massive ownership, I take massive ownership, and every single day we move forward.
I'm like, no, it's my fault that screwed up. He's like, no, it's my fault that screwed up.
Exactly. So understanding this law, right? You understand both wins and losses equally. You understand that ego has no place in leadership, right? Because even if I make a mistake, Andrew will take ownership of that mistake and say, hey, there's something I could have done there. Mm-hmm. There's something I could have helped you with. And what that does, it allows me to not feel like, hey, I made a terrible mistake. It allows me to recalibrate and give myself a second to say, okay, what could I have done better, right? When you have leaders that take extreme ownership, other people around you are inspired to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're inspired to say, okay, I know Andrew's taking ownership right now, but really it should be me, right? And then when you have a whole culture, guys, all of you entrepreneurs, all of you guys who are building a business, all of you guys who are building a team around you, build a culture of extreme ownership.
Explain that a little deeper, Leo, because what you're sharing there, like I know some people are doing businesses, have partnerships, looking for a partner, building a team, and it's like, okay, that's cool, but like, how do I actually implement that? What if I have a bad partner and they take advantage of me taking ownership? Or what if, all the what ifs, like, well, how does it work so well in our partnership?
So when you have two insecure people, you create deeper insecurity. It's like having two flames, you put them together. But when you have two confident people who take extreme ownership, it allows you guys to grow moving forward with direct communication, like we talked about on yesterday's show.
Yeah.
Right? Because me and Andrew have such direct communication with each other, we will be very honest with everything that we have going on.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the language is that type of ownership. Hey, I made a mistake. I did this wrong. What could we do? And when we're keeping each other accountable, we have that same type of language. Hey, Andrew, I noticed this was going on. What's happening? Direct communication.
Yeah.
But because we have that, I guess I should say that stemmed from first a personal taking of ownership and a personal confidence that you have to create for yourself, because most people can't take accountability. And most people who can't take accountability with themselves.
Right.
Because they would rather say all the nice things to themselves, which I think is incredible. Positive self-talk is incredible. But you also have to be able to say like, hey, Leo, you've been screwing up. Let's get back to work. And I have to be able to hear that from Andrew. Even though he might have to say it in a different language, I still have to be able to take that from Andrew. So type in the chat yes if this is making sense. The law of total ownership, it's so in-depth. And we can do a whole entire 4 shows on this, but I want to make sure we move on to number 3. But anything else to cover on this?
No, this is good, and I think and as we go through number 3, I'm going to explain to you guys a couple of things that I did very wrong in the beginning, because as humans, I think we're prone to extremes, and how I mismanaged team and communication in so many ways, and hopefully be able to give you guys the opportunity to learn from that and avoid some of those mistakes I made. because that's another piece of leadership, is to be able to be transparent and, as we just said, own our mistakes and successes. We don't have to try to feign humility. If you had a major success, own that success along with your team or partners or whoever. When there's a major failure, own that too.
So a question that you guys can ask yourself is, how is this my responsibility and what can I do about it?
Have you had this new cinnamon strawberry or whatever
It's
this
terrible.
is? You don't like it?
It's terrible.
Oh, I love this
I'm
tea.
not drinking that thing anymore.
By the way, we just put in an order for, I have this favorite tea shop outside of Japan. Japan's my favorite tea shops. But there's a tea shop that is in New Albany, Indiana, just across the river from Louisville. And they have something like 300 and something flavors of tea. It's incredible. They make the most cool tea flavors. And I went online this week and I ordered about 11 new tea flavors. So here in a couple short days, whenever the shipping happens, we're going to have a bunch of New Albany, Indiana, unique special teas to enjoy.
We have a show coming up on financial responsibility. We just spent $2,000 on tea, which leads us to number 3, which is the law of influence. There's no segue to that. However, I think his name's Ken Blanchard. He has a great book, though. The key to successful leadership today is influence, not authority. Leaders move people, not just manage tasks. If you are so confident in the direction of your business and in where or what needs to happen in that business, and you speak it with conviction, people will follow that because they know that if they do that task, it's going to be followed up on and it's going to move the mission forward. However, if you're coming to your team and saying, hey, I think this might just possibly be the way to go. Do you want to just give it a shot? They're going to come with that same type of shakiness.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have confidence in you. They're not going to have confidence in the business or the vision. So what I want as we go over number 3 is that you start to build this type of influence. You start to build this type of conviction behind your voice so that you can lead your team with confidence and so they can feel confident in you.
I think John Maxwell said anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. That made me think when I read that, Leo, of you, because you're such an incredible visionary, not only putting the vision together, but charting the course, laying out the map, the mind map, the path, the blueprint in such a way where myself, the entire team, everyone can see the picture nearly as vividly as you are, thanks to your descriptions and drawings. And I share that because in the beginning, I didn't know how to do that. In the beginning, I went from one extreme to the other. I was a Mr. Nice Guy. I just hired whoever said they could do something and believed them. I had no pre-screening process. If someone come to me saying they needed help, they could be the worst at worst of jobs. I would feel sorry for them, and I would try to give them a place on the team and realize that past results is usually going to be indicative of future results. And so understanding the flow and I didn't know how to use intuition. So I'm Mr. Nice Guy trying to hire people and help them out. Had some good ones and some of the other kind of ones. And some worked, some didn't. So when I finally got tired of that costing me, I said, fine, I'm going to do it the right way. I'm going to hire and I'm going to lead. And so I went to the opposite extreme. And I would tell people how to do things. And I would get so frustrated whenever they didn't know how to do something that I was telling them how to do. And while not everybody's going to be a fit for your team, so I'm not suggesting you just keep people and say that you're the problem. And I realized that I was a horrible communicator. So years ago, I would have somebody come in and I would give them a task that I had given them very little training on, and then I would be frustrated when they had done the task incorrectly or not at all. And so because of that lack of communication, I had a turnover of team. And because I still didn't really know how to pre-screen or use intuition, I had a turnover of team. And so I went through all of those years of heartache and turmoil to finally figure out now, thank God for our amazing team, as we have built an incredible team, of great people, yes, it takes some pre-screening. Yes, we had a couple that didn't work out, and that's fine too. They just weren't a fit. No hard feelings. But we are now surrounded by an incredible team of amazing people who are doing amazing things. And they're bought into the vision. This is important, guys. They're bought into the vision. And so now when we communicate to them, we ask questions more than we tell. So how did you, because you taught me a lot about that with leadership, Leo. How do you curate such great questions as a leader?
Well, I think the foundation for myself was understanding how to lead myself.
Yeah.
Because I realized I was absolutely unemployable, right? I had worked multiple different jobs. I was good at them. However, I was not able to have an authority figure. And that came from my childhood in the past of not really having an authority figure. So realizing how unemployable I was and how there was so many different parts and aspects of me as an employee that just didn't work, I had to learn how to lead at that point and realize that other people kind of are similar in certain ways.
Yeah.
Everyone likes to be led differently. Everyone has a different human nature. Everybody has different levels of ego. Everyone has different levels of organization. So I started to realize how to communicate with each and every single one of those type of people. For example, men and women, they see praise differently, most likely. And what I noticed was when it came to praising, you know, for example, with you might take praise differently than Aloja would, right? And you might not be motivated so much by praise. You might be motivated more by constructive criticism and by a vision, right? And I know you are very self-motivated. So to use Aloja and John as an example, John is very motivated by the vision. He's also a visionary person. He's an editor, right? So he needs to see, hey, what are we building? What is the end goal of this video that we're creating? With Aloja, she just needs to know that she is growing and she's doing a good job, and she will continue to crush it. So understand each person in your life, each individual, each relationship. Everybody is different. And I don't want to overwhelm you guys, but when you understand the law of influence, you can start seeing everybody as a different set of personalities and a different set of metrics, I guess, that allow you to lead them properly. But what embodies all of this in a more simple way is by using your intuition.
Yeah.
Right? Your intuition is the internal lie detector that you have that goes beep, 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 beep. You know, not when someone's necessarily lying, but when you have a good intuition, you know when someone's lying. But your intuition is your gut saying, hey, I think this person wants to be led this way. Or I can tell this person doesn't really like this type of leadership. Let me shift directions to see if they like this style more.
And I think, guys, for all of you listening, it's such a powerful dynamic when you can just ask questions and serve. We talked yesterday about selling is serving, leading is serving. To be leader of all, we got to be servant of all. And if we can truly ask questions and serve the team, and I became very resistant to that phrase in the early stages because I had a team that wasn't in alignment with the vision. And so I became, in the first couple of years of my business, almost an assistant to my team. And I'm like, this is not how this is supposed to be set up. And so I became frustrated with that potential model. But serving is not putting yourself down. Serving is assisting them in their growth and turning them into leaders. We'll talk more about that in a moment. So next law, the law of emotional control. Leo, where do we go with that one?
Calm is contagious. Leaders are able to create and dictate the emotional climate of their team. If you panic, they panic. Now, you imagine a Zoom call or you imagine a conference, everyone's going to look to the leader. Everyone's going to look to the CEO, right, or the founder. And how he or she reacts to things is typically how they'll react. If you start panicking, the rest of the team is going to be like, okay, it's time to panic.
Yeah.
But if you remain calm and in control of your emotions throughout the entire process of building this business, they're going to remain calm. So I want you to understand how to control those reactions, because we're emotional creatures, but we have the ability to control how we outwardly respond to things. We don't want to react. In fact, we want to respond to the situation.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit more.
So I think the difference between reacting versus responding is, do we feel mentally panicked? How calm are we? Fear and frustration are natural, but discipline is choosing not to act on them. The best leaders are able to turn high stress moments into opportunities for growth. Very, very reasonably frequently, we'll be in a situation, whether it be in the team or a live event, or I'll be speaking. You've seen it happen a time or two. Be in the middle of speaking and something will go very wrong. It happened at this most recent event. I was in the middle of speaking, and when someone said they smelled smoke, the kitchen had burnt something, but they was worried the building was burning down. And so immediately, as a leader, you have to determine, number one, is everyone safe, right? And I knew I could count on my team to make sure that's happening and check in and make sure it was just kitchen burning, nothing crazy. And then we have to make sure we lead in an effective strategy. So while we're keeping everyone safe, we're keeping everyone focused and guided toward their desired outcome. And in these moments, and not to be political, but I think the most extreme version of that was played out on a international stage in recent days when there was the assassination attempt. That was a powerful moment of someone who looks in the face of what most people would have been terrified or fear and stands up and says, no fear, or if I have it, I'm not going to show it. And people on all sides of the political aisle look at that leader, look at Donald Trump and said, wait a second, like even if I don't like the guy, I admire that trait. That is a powerful leadership moment. And there's been a lot of speculation over the impact that had on the election as well. And I share that because no matter where you are in leadership, to be able to stand up in the face of what most people would fear and to lead with calm, to lead in a powerful way, in the face of danger, in the face of fear, in the face of anxiety, in the face of frustration, and to hold your cool and to say, no, this is where we're headed. We're gonna get there together. We're gonna figure it out together. And I remember in a very small way, but years and years ago when I was building a team and I didn't know yet how to manage cash flow. And I remember the accounts being overchecked and I'm going, oh crap. And Friday's coming. How am I going to pay the team? And in that moment, you want to panic. You want to be fearful. And I'm going, I don't know how I'm going to pull this together. But on the outside, I'm going, okay, well, I'm being authentic. I'm also keeping calm and cool because I know we're going to figure it out. We always do. That comes back to a powerful mindset and knowing where you're headed as a leader and knowing this is the most important in the scope of things 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now. The thing that you are now facing is probably going to be nothing more than a small little tiny bump in the road. A memory of, you remember that week we had that situation that came up and how we responded to that? Like that was kind of a stressful situation. That's how almost everything that we get sleepless nights about actually turns out. So if we can really future pace ourselves and start thinking in that way, it's going to allow us to use the law of emotional control for our favor.
Absolutely. And it's the discipline to not act on fear or frustration, right? Too much of the world right now you see all around in the way they speak and the way they comment is they act on their frustration. They act on their lust. They act on these impulses that come up on any given day, right? Everybody has impulses, but the greatest leaders are able to look at it and say, okay, it's just frustration coming up. I'm not going to act on it. I have the discipline to take a deep ass breath and say, we're good.
What do you think separates that difference, Leo?
It is just simply the repetition of discipline. The repetition of saying, if I hold myself back from getting angry or letting myself be lustful or letting myself be stupid with the things that I say, then my life's going to be a little bit better the next day. But people have a short fuse sometimes because they haven't trained themselves to understand what's in the future for them, right? The greatest leaders have a strong spine. A strong spine means they have something that they care for. They have something that they believe in, right? And they have the kahunas to back it up. The kahunas back it up to say, you know what, this is what I believe in. This is my values. These are my thoughts. I'm doing whatever I can to back those things up. And if I know that frustration, fear, doubt, all these emotions come up and could steer me away from these things, it's the discipline to say, no, my values are strong enough. My vision is strong enough. My ideal is strong enough to hold myself back from acting emotionally. If you look outside in the world, if you literally go anywhere and talk to 20 people, you'll see how emotional the world is. And it's okay because we're emotional creatures. However, leadership right now is at such a low bar and a low standard because nobody knows how to actually control those emotions.
Yeah.
And we say nobody because it's really it is a high percentage of people who do not know.
So true.
And
So many people live in constant reactive mode.
so for all of you guys here who are entrepreneurs, I know you already have such a sense of having a strong spine and having something to work towards. And if I was talking to myself a couple years ago who was not such a great leader, I would say, how can you every single day start building the repetition of discipline, of emotional resilience? Because the bigger the levels, the bigger the devils. And if you can't build yourself up to become a great leader at that level, then you're going to fall down really fast to attacks.
That's good. I think as leaders, it becomes a whole lot less about us and a whole lot more about the mission, the vision, and the people that we're surrounded by.
Absolutely. Should we go to number 5?
Let's do it.
All right. Everyone type in the chat. The law of development.
Before we were a leader, growing was about our self-development and personal growth, how much we was growing. After we become leaders, growth gets measured by how much those around us are growing.
100%. So I'm going to put my notes away. We'll just flow for this one for the last couple of minutes for the law of development, because it is our job, guys, as leaders to expand, not just creating more followers, but creating more leaders that can create more followers. And I say followers for an essence because we still follow leaders, right? We follow the highest leader of all, right?
Yeah.
We follow the King of Kings, we follow God, and we continually use his word, his scripture to anchor ourselves and guide ourselves and learning to submit to that type of leadership. So we are still followers. However, we are king's kids, right? So we are people who also get other people to follow and to get on that right path. Now, for us, leadership goes in so many different directions. How do we lead our friendships? How do we lead our families? How do we lead each other? How do we lead relationships? How do we lead our team? And when we understand that the greatest thing you can do is to train your people to become leaders, to think for themselves, to also handle their emotions well, that is when things get so easy. That's what we see every given day now. And that's why we're able to grow so fast, because the people around us are all leaders.
It was interesting, Leo, when you said that a leader, in so many words, don't create followers, they create other leaders. I thought of you. Not just because we're sitting in the same room, but because I've watched in our mastermind communities countless times. Because I've been part of other programs, around other leaders, around other people who give you enough to succeed, but also constantly try to make sure that you know that you can't make it without them.
Right.
Right. You know exactly what I mean. And some of you guys have experienced that. Good people who support you in a way, but they also want you to know you can't make it without them. And you constantly are empowering people to not need you, not need us, which is amazing. And of course, people then want to stick around and continue to be leaders within the community, which is incredible. But the whole objective is to create leaders, not to create followers. And as we get that out of our mind, what people's need to create followers comes from is ego. But if we remove ego and realize it's not about us, it's about empowering others to live their purpose, that creates a ripple effect that can go on for generations.
Everything you want is going to be through people, right? And if we understand that you could have 1,000 followers, let's call it 100 followers, who are okay at what they do, and they need roles, they need tasks to know what to do. You just create yourself a 100-person job to make sure you're giving every single person roles and tasks and things to do, which is a very tiring job.
Yeah.
Versus you train your people up, you challenge them, you give them this vision for themselves to say, you are so good and talented at talking to people. Imagine what you can do over the next 2 years as you continue growing that. You're going to be incredible. I challenge you to take on these tasks. I challenge you to take on these roles. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah.
That simple dialogue right there will inspire someone for sometimes the rest of their life to become a great leader. And now they're leading 10, 15, 20, 30 people. Now this one person can bring hundreds of more people to you, hundreds of more resources to you. And really now that person becomes such a high value individual. High value people build other people to be high value people because it makes everyone more high value.
Absolutely.
And this is how you start growing and leveling up with your tribe versus staying at the bottom, staying in the place of trying to feed off of other people.
Yeah.
That is not leadership at all, right? But the other side is absolute pure leadership, high value leadership, and really in the embodiment of the principles, the 5 laws that we went over today.
What do you think takes someone from being the type of leader who creates followers versus the type of leader who creates leaders?
The greatest thing you could do is remove all insecurity from your life as soon as you possibly can. Insecurity is a disease. If I had insecurity, Andrew would have insecurity because it would disease him.
How do you remove insecurity from your life?
You have to have an absolute naked view of yourself for a minute. What I mean by that is
Does that mean just look in the mirror?
It's not. I mean, honestly, you can do that. You can take everything off, look in the mirror, and just say, okay, where am I at? However, it's about having a pure view of yourself and saying, what has happened to me over the past 20, 30, 40, 50, however old you are or young you are, what has happened to me? What does my life consist of, right? And why don't I feel good about myself? Or why do I procrastinate? Right? Because God didn't make us to do these things.
Right.
Right? We are built in his image. Do you think if God came on here, he would procrastinate the same way? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
We are built in his image. So we have to understand, why am I not confident? Why am I not embodying these traits? Why am I not being able to glow and lift other people up as God would? And we start to realize it came from somebody else. Somebody called you ugly. Somebody called you fat. Somebody called you smelly. Somebody called you something. And you decided to use that as your story to live on with.
That's powerful.
And because of that story, you told yourself over years and years and years. And now when you look in the mirror, you call yourself that same name or something along those names. And now you're insecure about that thing.
I'm telling you guys, if you struggle at all with insecurity or self-doubt or not believing in yourself, inevitably you can trace it back to some belief or story that we have created for ourselves. I'm sure you've seen other people who weren't as good looking as you, even, who constantly tell themselves that they are, and their confidence shows. And because even if their natural beauty isn't the level of yours, you still are attracted to them as a friend, as somebody you want to go talk to, because they're confident in themselves, right? And so understanding that power you have to look at yourself and you become the story you tell yourself, oh my gosh, that's a game changer.
So then going back to why, like the psychology of that is because we want confidence for ourselves. So when we see someone else who is so confident in themselves, we just want some of that. We're going to follow that person. So it doesn't matter what you look like, right? It doesn't matter what the person looks like. If they embody the trait that you want, they embody confidence, they embody radiance at such a strong level where they know that that person can't be taken down, they want to follow them. That's something I've understood so deeply, is that, guys, when you become unbreakable, right? These are the 5 laws of unbreakable leadership. Oh, let me show this one more time. These are the 5 laws of unbreakable leadership. But when you truly become unbreakable, it means that you are so confident in yourself and who you are that no one's words can break you down, right? I can have 20 people right here. Andrew's the same way. You can say the meanest things to me and Andrew, and we will sit here and smile, because what's going through our mind is we hear the words and it doesn't insert into our brains anymore, because we have such good filters of knowing who we are at the deepest level. Our values are so strong and our self-identity is so strong where I know myself more than anyone else. Andrew knows himself more than anyone else. You know yourself more than anyone else. So if you are a good person and you do good things, your self-identity is so strong. When your self-identity is so strong, it's such a strong filter that it can't be broken. So some random on the street or even someone close to you says something like you are ugly or you're a terrible leader. I will hear it, but it does not transfer through. It is unbreakable. It is impossible to get through to me to make me insecure because I am no longer insecure. And that is something that every single day as a leader, you need to be trained. You need to train yourself on, because if you have a breakable layer, anything I say, anything, and we won't say anything and that would break that, but anyone says to you can get through to your skin and you're done. Any demons that come into you, try to say anything, you're done. Spiritually, mentally, physically. You have to create such a strong filter, and that is why we have such a strong backbone. We have such strong kahunas, and we know that we don't care what people think at all, and we just get to move forward.
I think it's a powerful thing. It's really a freeing experience, and some of you guys have already had this, but it's so freeing when you can truly step into what I call stepping into your power. By the way, type it in the chat. Just show some support for each other. Step into your power. As you step into your power and you inspire others to step into their power, your whole world begins to shift in a very special way, because what used to bother you, what used to tear you down, what used to make you maybe be indecisive or insecure, now it just doesn't matter, because as you are growing, you're online, you're on here watching us right now. You all have a personal brand. It's what your friends think about you and your neighbors think about you. People who are watching this with you think about you. And so that used to scare me so bad. And I would get a negative comment online and it would tear my little heart out. But now I'm over it, right? I don't really care anymore, because as we've stepped into our power, we're serving at the highest level. It's not about us anyway.
And because you know that person on the other side that's commenting is just so hurt and insecure themselves.
Yeah.
People are insecure and they need to attach onto someone who's confident.
And I think, I often imagine when somebody says something mean in person or mean online, I often realize that they are subconsciously holding up a mirror in front of their face. They're actually saying that to themselves because they're very unhappy with themselves. Because it takes a very small person to be so hate-filled that they're going to go online to a stranger who's confident and doing something and make fun of him for doing it or her for doing it. And I share that because you will only get pulled down by people who are below you. No one above you, no one making more money than you, more confident than you, further along in life than you, where you want to be, is ever going to look down on you and make fun of you for trying to take an action. They're either going to commend you or give you a pointer to help get even more better. That's a word. To become even better. And I think that's the powerful place you step into. And now you just realize, oh my gosh, a lot of hurt people are out there who don't know how to heal themselves, don't know how to step into their power. And so they're going to be angry with themselves, and they're going to project that onto anybody they can come in contact with.
So those were the 5 laws of high-level unbreakable leadership.
Make decisions quickly. Take ownership for everything. Your influence will never be stopped. Use it for good and for God. The law of emotional control is you can control your emotion and choose your feelings. And the law of developing leaders, not followers.
Type in the chat 1 out of 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Which one was the most impactful for you? My favorite is the law of development, because that is what we do on any given day.
I was leaning toward 5, but I was struggling.
You got 1,
so I figured it was 1. Number 5.
So guys, you guys are all leaders. You guys are all continuing to become the best version of yourself. This is the point of this show, is to help entrepreneurs like you become the best version of yourself in your leadership, in your decision making, in your team, in your systems, in your overall offer, and understanding what it is that you do at the highest level. This is the Truka Show. We're going to be back here tomorrow, same time, same place. We have a very important topic, and we're talking about how to build the type of connections that me and Andrew have today, and what it takes to be able to have that charisma, have that magnetism to attract those type of people. So you're no longer chasing. You're no longer going out of your way and trying to really trying to chase. And now you're just attracting those people.
Yeah. This is a powerful game changer, guys, because I chased for so many years. I was chasing deals. I was chasing funding. I was chasing opportunities. I was chasing trying to find good partnerships. And it wasn't until I finally surrendered and learned to attract that everything became way less stressful and way more profitable.
100%. So if you want daily reminders of this show and opportunities to win lots of gifts, a lot of rewards, a lot of travel experiences with me and Andrew, go to daily.truka.com and it will give you all updates and reminders every day for the show.
By the way, we've told them we're going to be doing some giveaways and some fun stuff. We're here in the second month of the year. We want to give them a sneak peek into what we're working on, any timelines, any of the stuff we're putting together over the next few months?
Yes. So you guys are getting a lot of different experiences from us, a lot of our teachings. We're packaging a lot of it together. So a lot of that is going to be coming out very soon. A community for you guys to be able to chat with amongst each other, ask us questions, ask each other questions is coming. We got trips to Hawaii. We got trips to Bali. We got trips to Oceanside, California. We got a lot of trips coming up, a lot of cool things happening. We're so excited to see you. Just continue hanging out in the show. Keep writing to us. We see it all in front of us, and we'll see you very soon. Peace.
Boom.
Deuces.
Tomorrow,
Bye-bye.
same place, same time.